I recently had a conversation with a student who wants to be an artist. She's got aspirations to go to college and major in graphic design or maybe interior design. And she's having trouble getting together a portfolio. She loves to draw, but she doesn't think she's particularly good at it. And she seemed beset with self-doubt. And that was sort of paralyzing her ability to get anything done. I would give her these little assignments and she would try, but she wasn't finishing anything. She was getting frustrated. And the first thing she told me whenever she showed me her work was, "This isn't very good, but, well, I kind of messed up here, but," and there was a lot of negativity. So I wanted to show her a blind contour drawing. So blind contour drawing is where you block your vision of what you're drawing, and you can just look at the object that you're looking at and focus on that. The idea is that you don't lift your pencil up at all. So it's all one continuous line, which is why it's called a contour drawing, because contour for contour line. And the idea is that you're not looking at the lines you're drawing, you're looking at the object you're drawing. And because of that, it's supposed to increase your observational skill. Because instead of looking down at your paper, you're looking at what you're copying from. And so you're drawing what you see instead of the memory of what you saw. So putting that piece of paper on your pencil will help. And the idea is that you don't lift your pencil up so the picture becomes one long continuous string. And you try and avoid, obviously you're going to peek a little bit, but you try and avoid looking at your paper, and you mainly look at the object you're drawing. And most importantly, you do not stress about whether or not your picture is going to be quote unquote good or not, because you already know it's not going to be quote unquote good. You already know it's not going to look like this very professional, polished piece. It's going to look like a piece of string. And because you weren't looking at your picture, it's probably going to look a little bit mangled. So you stop focusing on whether your art is good and you start focusing on the learning process. It helps you to emphasize process over product. And what I said to this student was, bad art leads to good art. The more you draw, the better your drawings will get. That's just a given. And conversely, no art leads to no art. So if you're constantly worried about how good your drawings are and you're constantly not finishing them because they're not any good, you're going to just automatically, by default, end up with no art. So by drawing nothing, you're virtually guaranteeing that you will accomplish nothing. And if you draw something, you're virtually guaranteeing that you will not only accomplish something, but that your art will definitely improve. So when you're done doing, and I would say try and do a bunch of really simple shapes first, like as simple as possible. So I picked a can and then a scissors and then a stapler. Then try doing a blind contour of your hand. And already, it's not going to be any good, but just think about it's a string. You're drawing a string that outlines the edges of your hand. That's all it's going to look like. It's not going to look like this polished piece of artwork. But learning how to draw is learning how to see, and getting into the habit of looking at your the thing you're drawing instead of remembering what you saw will definitely improve your observational skills. So again, you're going from simpler to more complex. You went from simple geometric objects to a little bit more complex objects. So then the next thing you're going to do is your hand holding something, preferably something that has a fairly simple shape. Your hand itself is already a complex shape. So you're already drawing something complicated because you're drawing your hand. So drawing something simple with something complex will add an additional challenge without being overwhelming. And already, you're filling up your sketchbook with essentially bad art, which is good. It's good because it means that you got yourself drawing and you stopped worrying about whether or not your art was any good or not. You focused on the process without worrying about whether it was going to be part of your portfolio or hang in a museum. And believe it or not, if you were to apply to art school or you would apply to a college and you had an interview and you brought your sketchbook with you and the person interviewing you saw several pages of blind contour sketches, even ones that weren't any good, they would be pleased that you were conducting this sort of brain training that would make them happy that you were training your mind to observe, that they would understand what the process was, and they would not expect good art, but they would expect that you would be training your brain in this process, and they would applaud that. So these little things would actually be beneficial to you and actually help your chances of getting into art school. So I'm going to just continue this process. And again, if you do cheat and you look and you pick up your pencil and you put it somewhere else and continue drawing, just make sure that when that happens, and you can see I'm cheating here a little bit, just make sure that when that happens, you don't start drawing again until your eyes are back on the object you're drawing and off of your paper. And that is very important because, again, the objective here is not to make beautiful art. The objective here is to train your brain to see. Now, what I'm going to do next is I'm actually going to do a self-portrait. And I'm going to show you, so here are the drawings I've done so far, but I'm going to now show you when I do the self-portrait how often my eyes are on my paper and how often my eyes are on myself. And the way that I'm going to show you is I actually had a Google Meet open. So I had myself on my computer screen, and you can see through the video just how often my eyes were on myself and not on my paper. And you can see that I looked at myself a lot. I still looked at my paper, but I also remembered to refer back to myself a fair amount. I'm going to speed up the video for this part. So this is just me looking at my screen, and you can see that I'm setting up to draw. I don't have the piece of white paper blocking my view, but you can see I'm drawing, and my eyes spend a lot of time on the screen, and I don't let my eyes leave the screen very much. I do look at my paper a fair amount because now I don't have that white paper blocking me. Mainly, I'm trying to make sure that I know where my pencil is on my face. So I do pick up my pencil occasionally and move it to another spot. But notice just how much I'm actually looking at my face. I don't ever spend a super long time looking at my paper and forget to look at my face. So this whole time I am drawing. I'm going to just skip ahead a little bit. Once again, you see I do look at my paper, but never for very long. I spend about an even amount of time looking at myself as I do at my paper. It's just very quick glances down to make sure my pencil's in the right spot. So this is what it looked like while I was drawing myself. I took the shield off so I could see my paper, and then this is how the drawing proceeded. And obviously the drawing is going to take a little bit longer than because I sped up the time to about double the time. It does take a little bit longer to draw this. But again, try and make it like it's one long string and you are actually just drawing that one line like it's a string to create your face. And if you need to lift up your pencil to move to a different spot, that's when you would look down at your paper so that when you put it down, you don't put it down in some bizarre spot that doesn't make any sense. And you start to notice all sorts of things in your artwork, in your face, in the shapes that you're drawing that you might not normally notice because you have trained your brain in this mode of thinking. So are you going to draw a fantastic masterpiece worthy of hanging in a museum? No, but you have now learned to see, and that means that you have learned to draw. I'm going to now speed up the video to about double the speed so you can see how the drawing progresses. But what you see right now is the real-time amount of time that it takes for me to draw the picture. So now I'm speeding up the process so you can get a sense of how the picture developed. This is about double the speed that I was actually drawing. Again, because it's called a blind contour drawing, contour means line, so the idea is that you are drawing one continuous line. Now notice I did pick up and move my pencil a few different times during this process. But when I put it down again, I then continued with the one long continuous line, even going across my nose from one eye to the other. And now, if you were to slow it down to the regular speed, you will see how the drawing actually progressed, and that's as far as I got. So, again, bad art leads to good art. No art leads to no art. So start focusing on the process and worry less about the product.